Hi. Have you ever wanted to start a YouTube channel? Good. Let me tell you why you shouldn't. From 1980 to 2000, a man managed to earn millions from learning the specific ways that slot machines work throughout all of the United States. Of course, mostly taking place in Las Vegas, the man would go as far as to buy his own slot machine, just to disassemble it and learn the exact weak points and mechanisms in them that he could take advantage of. So he did. He made tools and products that could use the machine's own game against it, and fraudulently take away thousands at a time. There was a problem though, of course. Outside the multiple times the man was caught and put in prison for brief periods, throughout all the time he was on his escapade of cheating the gambling industry, the machines were always one step ahead, updating their hardware after each new strategy the man would develop, getting more and more intelligent over time, only providing a small window for each new model to be studied in detail and have a new method to be developed before it would inevitably become useless. He did this for 25 years before retiring, making more than nearly 100% of all people who ever played the game the quote, normal way. Some admire the man as a hero, who served to uproot the established scheme behind the machines, and others viewed the man as a no-good crook, mostly a viewpoint expressed ironically by the very people behind the slot machine and gambling industry itself. So what's going on here? How does this relate to YouTube? Well, when you start a YouTube channel, you make your first video, film, record, edit, upload, and publish, and you're very excited. You refresh the upload page and see no views. You check back the next day and you see no views. Okay, what just happened? Is it really possible that you just managed to somehow make a video so emphatically boring and uninteresting that no human on Earth would ever want to watch it? No. So, where's the problem? There's a dirty secret at play here, as you read by the title. And it's quite simple, once we boil it all down. YouTube has an algorithm. With me so far? Okay. And it could be imagined as a type of machine that learns just like the example I painted for you before, and almost identical to the slot machine. Its intended purpose is ironically not to benefit the person using it, or actually learning how it works. YouTube isn't gambling, but these two learning machines both rely on one thing: the illusion of free will and destiny. Seriously. The reason gambling machines are so alluring is because of the ability to choose to take a risk, and then have a chance, if not even a very possible chance, of striking it rich. You don't strike it rich, but you keep coming back the next day and then the next day because you know that a new day is a new dollar, and a new dollar is new luck. You chose to manifest your own destiny, right? You decided, you used your own free will to choose to come back, right? Well, no, actually not. In reality, the machine uses its own flashy ability to keep those endorphins rushing and to make you want to keep coming back, hoping to increase your odds the next time, when in reality, whether the machine is going to provide you with some newfound cash or just simply take the cash that was previously in your pocket has already been predetermined. The machine is thinking for you. On YouTube, you click a video, and then another, and then another. It's just so hard to stop, so you choose to keep going. And then the next day comes, and you open it back up, and you do the same thing over and over again. Because the machine knows exactly what you like, what you dislike, and your personality more than even you do. The machine is thinking for you. But the YouTube machine is like a double-edged sword in this case. Unlike the gambling industry, YouTube doesn't produce anything. So we need to introduce another part into the equation: the content creator. So now, let's imagine the YouTube slot machine. A strictly two-player machine, where there's only one way to win. Player 1, the consumer, sits at the machine, only interacts with it exactly as Player 2 does, but does not put in any money. Player 2, the creator, works the machine, and every amount of risk or loss inputted into it comes straight from them. Whereas, all the gains the machine procedurally spits out is shared evenly with both players. If Player 2 loses, Player 1 receives nothing, and we have a net gain of 0. If Player 2 wins, Player 1 wins an equal amount by default. A win-win situation. Simple, right? Well, it turns out that there are 25 million people in line to be the next Player 2, and nearly 2 billion in line to be the next Player 1. Well, now we certainly have a problem. Ordinarily, both players would have a 50-50 chance of winning each time. But now that the odds are equally fitted to the new amount of total players, everything starts to get a little bit uncomfortable. All players will enter the game with the same chance of winning as all the others. 0. Or do they? Well, that wouldn't be fun, and if the machine actually did this, nobody would ever want to play. So, the manufacturer has a new idea. Since the amount of player 2s are outnumbered by almost 100 times, a new system is put in place to compensate. Now, all player 2s will be given a unique 3-digit number, ranging from 100 to 999. None of the player 2s will ever get to see their number, or anyone else's in line. As a matter of fact, they won't even know that they have it. Let's just say that it's been marked on their foreheads with magic marker. Is the analogy weird enough for you yet? Don't worry, it gets worse. The machine will immediately scan each number on player 2's forehead, and thusly adjust the probability of a win occurring by that certain amount. The higher the number, the higher the probability. Meanwhile, each player 1 blissfully sits at the machine without any much more to it. What this does is evens out the total risk being taken here among these 3 parties. Player 1 being their time. It's a long line after all. Player 2 being their money and energy. The manufacturer being the potential loss in customers if the machine doesn't give a favorable enough average to everyone and therefore isn't enjoyable enough. So all player number 1s are happy. Player number 2s keep flooding in, but something starts to happen. A lot of the player number 2s begin to get frustrated at the subtle realization that some other player 2s seem to win much more than them. Out of their continued free will to choose to want to win, one player decides to go beyond expectations and cracks the machine open upon it being his turn, studying it, trying to figure out any rhyme or reason as to why player number 2, Nancy, happens to win 3.5 times more than himself. Player number 2, Alec. He gets back in line again and again, using each turn to try to get closer to the answer, not realizing that the machine isn't the same for any one person. There was no strategy to it. It's an entirely unbeatable and uncheatable game. The irony of the situation being that the answer was right underneath Alec's nose the whole time. Or in this case, above. The 3-digit number. The very delicately balanced identifier given to all player 2s, which can be changed and manipulated to fit the amount of total players that there are at a given time, to always provide the same overall amount of satisfaction for the population of player 1s. It turns out as well that the longer a player 2 has played, or the amount of turns they've had, the less the risk they are to the machine's profitability, and the higher their number tends to be. New player 2s just hopping the line, well, they get the lowest number possible, but equally sharing the same ambition as those all the way up there. Ignorance is bliss, and so is free will. So the machine emulates it to keep its clientele. Player 1 didn't choose to play with player 2 and win, nor did player 2 choose to play the game and win for player 1. The outcome was determined before the two ever met. But there's one more catch. The machine is located outside, and the weather tends to fluctuate from time to time. Not as many players want to come out and show up to get their daily fix in the frigid temperatures, nor in the peak of sweltering summer, so the machine automatically has a fix. The numbers on a large amount of player 2's foreheads will dramatically increase on average during these times of naturally less demand, therefore driving the win rate and thus the enjoyability of the machine up, attracting more players anyway, creating an almost infallible, consistent cycle of profitability. Algorithm cycles. So now, with that hopefully not too terribly long analogy out of the way, we can finally get to the root of this problem. Is it ethically correct for the machine and the manufacturers of the machine to keep every one of their players in the dark about this? Or is it the only way for the system to work properly and therefore justified? What if I told you that YouTube has the exact same system in place across the entire website? That's right, every creator on the entire platform is indeed player number 2. You are most likely player number 1, but you could actually be player number 2 at the same time. Let me explain. When you have a YouTube account, you don't automatically get a channel. That only happens when you choose to create one. Okay, now, you have a YouTube channel. What next? Well, you upload that first video. That is when the sorcery begins. Your video is automatically labeled with a predetermined score, the advertiser preference score, and it is associated with your entire channel on the basis of age, subscriber count, metadata, transcripts, thumbnails, like to dislike ratios. It's not going to be high. Actually, you are basically guaranteed to have the lowest number possible when you start out. 100. Which is equivalent to about a 0% chance at winning at the seat of our magic slot machine. YouTube just doesn't have enough data on who you are and what you make videos about, which makes you just too much of a risk to put you out there to the masses, taking up that precious suggested and recommended section real estate. The score actually is a mere reflection on how likely it is for an advert to show up on a video. And guess what? If you're not monetized, you still get one because YouTube puts ads on your videos anyways and just keeps the full cut for themselves. How's that for a slot machine industry style of business? But therein lies the answer. YouTube is a business, an LLC company, so predictably, every aspect of its discovery algorithm, suggested, recommended, trending, homepage, Twitter account, maybe, is directly tethered to the profitability of a video and its parent channel on the basis of a single 3-digit number that you didn't know existed until now. It tells the algorithm exactly what the destiny of each video will be, how many people it will reach, how much of an impact it will make, the entirety of lifelong careers, dreams, aspirations to take place on this website, all of them boiling down to a number. So why not just crank that thing up high for everyone? And we'll all have nothing but just pure success. That's how you beat the game. Maybe. But then, every time you were to open up YouTube and see nothing but a random assortment of the average video amongst the hundreds uploaded every single minute, that wouldn't be very fun. The advertisers in this case are also acting as player number one, and they would have no one to show their ads to because no one would be watching videos at all. The chance of even one out of the millions being anything to attract your interest specifically, refresh after refresh, would be similar to finding a full-fledged proper sentence after shifting through an infinite library of gibberish. There wouldn't be a YouTube. As the saying goes, if everyone's super,
no one will be.
So that's it? Everyone is just as destined to be successful as what a number allows them to be? It's basically just a social credit system. Not entirely. This number is mendable. It's not fixed. Some might even argue that it could be artificially increased, for the given cost, of course. But don't do that. That's not fair, after all. Going way back to the original analogy of this video, gambling machines rely on your false belief of being in control. All successful systems, to some extent, rely on the illusion of each member having some form of control. Destiny. And you do. At least to some extent. The thing that you indeed do have that is unique enough to counter even the near impossible odds that you are sure to start out with is you. So, if you're thinking of starting a YouTube career, or perhaps already have one, give it your best. The world needs more inspired people like you. Just know the game you're playing. I made this video to highlight the areas in our daily lives of where we feel like we're in control, but we just simply aren't. And on a slightly more somber note, it kind of reminds me of the quote by Elon Musk on how, to a certain extent, we're already cyborgs. We let machines do our thinking for us, and we label it as free will, choice, and probability. But ultimately, sometimes the only winning move is not to play.